guys, today I'm filming a video of my current thoughts on all the products I did first impressions on in 2016. I did film one of these videos last year as well that I will have linked up here. And I totally credit this video idea to my amazing subscriber Julie, or JCCMZ. Last year she had left me a comment talking about first impression videos, and it really inspired me to do this kind of video once I've been able to test out the products for a while, just to give you my finalized thoughts. So this year I filmed 10 first impression videos, 6 on foundations and 4 on brow products. I'm going to have all the products listed down below, and I will also be linking the first impressions so you guys can see the demos and the wear tests. Also, I wanted to hear your all's opinion on how I should do foundation first impressions in the upcoming year. So what I did this year was a first impression and a follow-up. So on the first day I would try out the foundation by itself, and on the second day I would try the foundation in my everyday routine so I could really get a good grasp of how it would actually work for me. So do you like it that way? Or I've also seen from Julie Dawn Olsen that she will do a first impression, then wear the foundation for a week, and then give you her finalized thoughts after it's been a week. So let me know which you would prefer. I'm totally open to either one. I want to make my first impression videos as helpful for you guys as possible. So I'm going to start with foundations and end with brow products. For foundations, I have 6. I have 2 from the drugstore, 2 high-end stick foundations, and 2 high-end liquid foundations. So there are a couple different things I look for when I'm trying out a foundation. First off, trying to find a good color match. I am very fair with a strong yellow undertone, so it can be hard for me to find my perfect shade. Also, I like medium buildable or full coverage. I also like foundations that will last all day because I do traditionally have pretty long days, and I also like foundations that will hold up against oils. So I'm going to be rating these foundations on all of those different things. So starting with my 2 drugstore foundations, the first one is actually a BB cream. This is the CoverGirl Clean Matte BB Cream. I am in the shade Fair. My amazing friend Jean sent this to me, and I was really excited to try this out because I'd heard some pretty good things about it. So starting with the color match, Fair is a pretty good match. It is a little bit dark and a little bit on the pinky side for me, which is something that I tend to expect with CoverGirl foundations. I've never been able to find a good match for me, but it isn't too bad, and I can make the color work for me, but this does oxidize on me. So on the first day when I tried this product on its own, I definitely did notice that it oxidized on me. It got darker and a little bit more orange, but on the second day when I used it in my normal routine, I did not notice it oxidizing hardly at all. So it's definitely something I want to be wary of because I hate when products oxidize, but because when I used it in my everyday routine, it didn't really do that, I am okay with it. But other than that, this shade is not perfect, but I can make it work. So for the coverage, this is a medium coverage BB cream, which I think is amazing because most BB creams give you a sheer or light coverage. This one gives medium, which is very, very impressive. So now for how long it lasts and how it controls my oils. So this certainly does last almost all day long, which is fantastic. And it does hold up against my oil pretty well. I do still have to blot, but not as often as I do with a couple of the other foundations I'm going to show you. So this actually does do a good job of helping to keep me fairly matte, probably as good as it can. So overall, I do think that this is a really, really nice product. I'm probably going to reach for this on more casual days, lazy days, and definitely in the summer. I think this would be a great matte BB cream for anybody with normal, combo, or oily skin. If you are normal and you like that matte finish, I think you probably won't have to touch up at all. But if you're super oily like me, it will still give you that nice matte finish, but you are going to need to touch up, but I really do expect to do that, so that isn't too bad. So overall, I think this is a nice product. I think I will enjoy using this, but not enough to repurchase it because it's not perfect. My second drugstore foundation is the Rimmel Lasting Finish Foundation. I have the shade 100 Ivory, which is the second lightest shade in the range. My amazing friend Jean sent this to me as well. I know she really loves it, as does Emily Noel 83. So starting with the shade 100 Ivory is definitely a bit too dark and a bit too pink for me. I'd be curious to see how the lightest shade would match me. I think the lightest shade came out after the rest of the line, if I'm getting that right. So while it is a bit too dark and too pink, I can definitely make it work for me. It isn't way dark, so it is a workable shade. And also, this did oxidize on me the first day I used it by itself. It didn't oxidize too terribly bad, but it was something I was able to notice. Then on the second day when I used it in my everyday routine, I didn't notice it oxidizing at all. So for the coverage with 2 layers, I am able to get light medium coverage, which is crazy because why is a BB cream giving me more coverage than a liquid foundation? And this isn't a super runny texture. This is a little bit thicker, kind of like a gel texture, and I would just think this would give more coverage, but it doesn't. So that is definitely a big bummer for me. And also, I might view coverage different than you might. I have a lot of redness on my skin that I like to cover up, and this just didn't cover it up very well at all. It did even out my skin tone everywhere else, but my redness was definitely still showing through. So the coverage is definitely a negative for this. So as far as how long it lasts and how it controls my oil, this has a natural finish. So starting off with the finish, my skin isn't going to have as good of a chance as holding up against it as if the finish were matte. And I was definitely oily throughout the entire center of my face after about 5 hours. If you watch my first impression, you will see I'm glistening and glowing. But when I use my mattifying face primer and powder, it does keep me matte for a little bit longer. I definitely have to touch up more frequently throughout the day, but not so much that it's annoying or it's gonna be inconvenient for me. So isn't the best at oil control, but it works better than some of these other products. So overall, I think this is okay. I probably will use this up, but I'm not going to repurchase this. This just doesn't give enough coverage for me. It doesn't keep me matte for as long as I would like. So I think this could be a really great everyday foundation for anybody with normal, combo, maybe even dry skin. But if you have super duper oily skin and you like full coverage, this probably is not going to impress you. So then I have my 2 stick foundations, the Hourglass Vanish and the MakeUpForEver Ultra HD. Both of these were sent to me by Influencer. If you have never heard of Influencer before, I'll have my link down below. Basically, it is a middleman company that hooks you up with brands to test out their products. So all you do is fill out a survey. If you are accepted, they will send you free product and you give your honest opinion on your social media. So starting with the Hourglass Vanish Seamless Stick Foundation, I have the shade Linen, and Linen is definitely a bit too dark for me, and that is totally my fault. I chose the wrong color, and at the time we received this box, PR had not been sent out. There was no information. They gave some suggestions for colors, but it was just hard for me to know what would be too light and what would be too dark, and unfortunately I chose something that would be too dark. So this is something color-wise I'm going to have to use in the summer, and even then it might still be a bit dark for me. But this is really nice and yellow, and if you look at the shade selection of the Hourglass, they have some basically white foundation sticks, which is amazing. I really love how light and how deep they go. I'm just bummed that I chose the wrong color for me. So for the coverage, I would say this gives me a solid medium coverage, but the good thing about stick foundations is that if they are a buildable formula, you can build up the coverage. So I will apply 2 layers all over, and then if I need to, I can go and add more on my cheeks to build up the coverage there, and it does a really, really nice job of that. I also really love this triangle shape of the stick because it's really easy to get around your nose and your eyebrows and those little nooks and crannies. This does a good job. This also has a really great consistency. It is really creamy. It does not drag or tug on the skin whatsoever. That just makes it really easy to apply and blend out. So I absolutely love the consistency of this stick foundation. So as far as the oil control and the lasting power, this does last on me basically all day long. This does hold up against my oil okay. I have to touch up around every 3.5 hours, which is not terrible, but it definitely could be better. So overall, I think this foundation is really nice. I love the coverage and that it's buildable. It could do a bit better at holding up against my oils, and I might try to use this up. I might pass it on to my mom if she would like it. But this is something I would never repurchase because this cost almost $50, and that is just absurd. Honestly, the only reason it costs that much is for the brand name of Hourglass. I don't know why Hourglass products cost so much because I think it really isn't justified. I don't think the quality of their products can really justify that price, especially when there are more inexpensive products, even from other high-end brands that work just as well. So while I think this is great, I'm definitely not going to repurchase it because it's so expensive. And this is nice, but I would probably say this is better for people with normal or combo skin. If you are super duper oily, you're definitely just going to need to blot a lot more throughout the day. My second high-end stick foundation is the MakeUpForEver Ultra HD. I am in the shade Y225, which is the lightest shade with yellow undertones in the stick line, and of course it is too dark for me. It is yellow enough, which is great, but it is a little dark. I am able to make it work. I can put a lighter powder on top, a lighter concealer, and I can get the shade to work out for me pretty well, but it is a bummer they don't have just one shade lighter. The consistency of this is similar to the Hourglass, where it is really creamy. It glides onto my skin so easily, blends out so flawlessly. When I think of a stick foundation, I think of something really heavy and cakey and hard to blend out, but neither of these have that problem. They blend so nicely. And for coverage, this is medium buildable to full. While the Hourglass is buildable as well, I definitely get more of a medium with this and more of a full coverage with this one, which is really, really impressive. When I use this foundation, I will apply one layer all over, and then I'll go back in on my cheeks and build it up. And even just that one layer on the rest of my face does give full coverage, which is so impressive. So now for how well it lasts throughout the day and how well it holds up against my oil. This has a very glowy finish. It does not hold up against my oils well at all. I have to blot about every 2.5 hours when I use this, which is pretty inconvenient and just way too often for me to have to touch up. If I have a lot of things going on in the day, I can't just go to the bathroom and touch up as often as I would like. And unfortunately with my skin, if I wait too long to touch up, the damage has been done and my foundation is totally screwed up, and no amount of blotting or powder will fix it. So it definitely doesn't hold up against my oil as well as I would want it to, but I know this is definitely targeted more towards dry skin. And this doesn't really last all day on me. It probably would last better if I consistently touched up as often as I needed to. So overall, I think the coverage is absolutely amazing, but this is not made for oily skin. If you have dry, normal, or even combo skin, I would highly recommend this because the coverage is absolutely amazing. The natural glowy finish is very pretty, and this would probably be amazing for your skin because it does glide on so easily. I don't notice this clinging to any patches on the skin, so I really do recommend this for other people that don't have oily skin. And lastly, for foundation, I have my two high-end liquid foundations. The first is the MakeUpForEver Ultra HD. I am in the shade Y215. I was also sent this for free from Influencer, which is so amazing. And starting with the color, this is the perfect shade for me. I have never had such a good shade match except for MAC NC15. But other than that, I've never found a foundation that matches me so perfectly. And I really wish the stick foundation went down one shade lighter, and then that would be a perfect match as well. But Y215 is really a perfect MAC NC15 skin tone, which is so awesome to find a foundation I don't need to mix something with or go in with a lighter powder or concealer. This shade works so well for me. That's basically the only good thing about this foundation. For the coverage with 2 layers, I get light, maybe light medium if I'm being generous, and that's absurd. 2 layers with the brush and I get light or light medium coverage? No, because I like such medium and full coverage. I have so much to cover up. I'm not going to waste my time with a light medium coverage foundation, especially one that costs this much. So for how well it lasts throughout the day and holds up against my oil, this does not last all day on me. This just does not stand a chance against my oily skin. I have to touch up every 2 hours with this foundation, which is just ridiculous, and I can't do that. I cannot touch up every 2 hours. That is just way too often. So this is definitely my least favorite foundation that I tried because it is the least compatible with what I look for in a foundation and for my skin type. So if you have dry skin, if you have normal skin, and you like that light medium coverage and you like a glowy finish, this would be great for you. But if you like full coverage or if you have oily skin, this will do nothing for you. And my second high-end liquid foundation I actually do not have here to share with you because I have returned it. It was the Urban Decay All Nighter Foundation. I was in the shade 1.0. 1.0 was a really great match for me. It was very fair and it was very yellow. So the shade match for that foundation was really good as well. Maybe a smidge dark, but definitely closer to my skin than any of the other foundations except for the MakeUpForEver. And I know with that foundation, a lot of people had it oxidize on them. I never had it oxidize on me, which is so bizarre. But I was really happy with that because the color match was so good. So really happy that even when I wore it on its own or in my everyday routine, it did not oxidize on me. For the coverage, it did give very medium buildable to full coverage. I was very impressed with that. I did like to apply that one with a brush to give the most coverage, but I did go over top with a sponge to blend out any brush strokes. So for how well it lasted throughout the day and held up against my oily skin, that did last on me basically all day long. It held up against my oils pretty well. I did have to blot about every 4 hours, which is pretty standard for me, so I didn't mind doing that. 4 hours is a lot more doable for me. That Urban Decay foundation I think works for so many different skin types. I've heard that even people with dry skin like it because I don't feel like that foundation is too drying. It isn't as dry as something like the Kat Von D Lock-It Tattoo, so I think it would be able to work for a lot more skin types, and it does have that really nice full coverage. So out of all the foundations I tried, that one was my favorite. Second place being the CoverGirl Matte BB Cream. And you might be wondering, if that was your favorite, why did you return it? And the reason I returned it is because it does not beat out my Holy Grail foundation. My Holy Grail foundation is a combination of the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade 1W1 Bone and the Hard Candy Glamoflague in the shade Porcelain. This combo gives me my perfect shade, my perfect texture, and my perfect coverage. So this is the foundation combo I like to wear on my school days or my long days. And the combination I use on my filming days is 2 of the Hard Candy Glamoflague foundations in the shade Porcelain and Fair. I mix these 2 together to get my perfect shade. I am wearing this today. Out of all of the foundations I've tried this year, these are my absolute favorite. And I think these work way better than all of those other foundations. And honestly, I am just so tired of trying foundations and none of them working that well for me. Not finding anything that is close to perfect. And that's just so disappointing. And out of all 6 of these foundations, I only purchased one with my own money, and that's the one that I returned. All the others were sent to me by influencer or by my friend Jean, and I cannot return them. Otherwise I would, because they're not perfect. And I am honestly just tired of screwing around with foundations, and I like to try things out, but I think I just get such high hopes that I just get really disappointed over and over again. So I probably will be trying out foundations in 2017, but if I don't think they are as good as my favorite combination, I will be returning them. So out of all the foundations in my collection, the only ones I'm going to repurchase that I have right now would be the Estee Lauder Double Wear and the Hard Candy Glamoflague. I think those are amazing and way outperform all of these others. I really do think I'm going to try to use up most of them. Some of them I might give to my mom or to some of my friends. We will see, because it will take me forever to use up all those foundations. So now moving on to the brow products. As I said, I did test out 4 brow products this year. So what I look for in brow products is that they will be the right shade for me. I like blonde shades that do have a cool taupey undertone. And I also look for brow products that will stick to skin and hair. My eyebrows are incredibly uneven, so I have to draw a lot on my skin to make them look as even as possible. So if they don't draw or last on skin, they're a no-go for me. The first one I no longer have. I did return it. It was the Maybelline Brow Pomade Crayon in the shade Blonde. I actually mentioned it in my top 16 disappointing products of 2016. I'll have that video linked up here. The blonde shade was great for me. It was really nice, light and ashy, so I loved the color. The consistency was really nice as well. It was a good mix of waxy and creamy, leaning more on the creamy side. So it did give some really nice pigment. It drew onto skin and onto brow hair, and it did hold the brows in place a little bit. Not as much as a actual brow gel would, but it did do a decent job. So the main reason I don't like that, and the reason I returned it, is because of the size. It is the chubbiest crown ever, and as you can see, I have pretty thick brows, and the first couple times I used it, I really liked it, but the tip wore down so quickly. It was just way too thick for me to use and not draw it onto my skin. I know some people, to use it up, applied it with a brush, which is a great idea to get use out of it, but I would not recommend anybody buy it with the thought that they might have to do that, because you might as well just buy a regular brow pomade if you're going to have to use a brush. So I really like that formula. I wish they just made it in a smaller sized pencil, and I think it would be great because the formula is nice, but that size is just way too huge for the average person to be able to use. The second brow product I tried out this year is also a unique concept. This is the Pure Cosmetics Browder Brow Perfecting Powder. I have the shade Blonde, a really great shade match for me, really nice light color. This is what the applicator looks like. It basically looks like a felt tip liner, except it just has powder coated on it. So the way you're supposed to use this is just to run it through your brows and it will stick to your brow hair. The consistency of this actually does stick to the brow hairs pretty well. I would recommend using something like the NYX Eyebrow Shaper Wax Pencil underneath to really help this stick to your brows, but this did a nice job on skin and on brow hair. So when I first tried it, I actually was impressed because I didn't think it was going to work at all. But the biggest con is that this is so freaking messy. After I had turned off the camera initially, I turned it back on to show you. I had just chunks of this powder all over my face, and the cleanup is just unreal. This is so messy that this is not a practical product. Now, if they had this same formula, this same consistency in a pot, even if it was loose, I would be more likely to use it than I would like this, because even though this is a really cool concept, it works well. The fallout is just way too much for me, and I have not used this since my first impression. And the last two brow products I tested out were two different brow pencils. The first is the ColourPop Eyebrow Pencil. I am in the shade Blondie. This is the best color for me I've ever seen. I have never been able to find a blonde eyebrow pencil this light. It is so light, which I love, and it's also pretty cool tone. So this color is absolutely perfect for me. This right here is actually a pretty good representation of the color. It's a bit deeper than this, but it's still the lightest blonde eyebrow pencil I have ever used. And because I do draw on my eyebrows kind of intense, I do square off the front, I like to make the color as light as possible so it isn't like I have really dark, intense brows. So that pencil is amazing, amazing, amazing because it is such a light shade. This is one of those brow pencils that you can twist up, but you cannot twist back down. And this does have a pretty precise tip, but it isn't as small as the Anastasia Brow Wiz or the NYX Micro Brow Pencil. The size of this, and actually the packaging of this, is most similar to the Maybelline Define Brow and also the MAC Eyebrows Pencil, but I really like this. I think it is definitely very, very precise for anybody with really thin or really thick brows to use. I love the consistency of this. It is definitely more on the creamy side than the waxy side, but it draws onto brow hair and onto skin really well. The one negative about it being so creamy is that I felt like I ran through this in like 2 months, which is a little too fast for me. The NYX Micro Brow usually takes me about 3 months, but this one I used up way quicker because it is so soft. This is still one of the best brow pencils I've ever used. I definitely plan on repurchasing this. Whenever I order from ColourPop, if I'm only $5 away, I'm definitely just gonna add one of these to my cart to help me get free shipping. But this is a really, really nice brow pencil and I would highly recommend it. And this is also very inexpensive. The NYX Micro Brow is my holy grail, but that costs $10 and the ColourPop only cost $5. And my last eyebrow product is the Benefit Goof Proof Eyebrow Pencil in the shade number 2 Taupe. That is a really great cool tone color for me. Definitely darker than the Blondie shade, but it isn't too dark for me. I love the color a lot. So if you guys can see this pencil, it is angled and it is almost like a teardrop shape. So this is definitely thicker than something like the Anastasia Brow Wiz or even this ColourPop eyebrow pencil. It is thicker, but I don't think it's too thick. I think even people with thin eyebrows can use this and it's not going to give them huge intense brows. I really do like the angle because it's really easy to just follow the shape of the brow and it fills in the brow a lot quicker than something with a really, really precise tip. So I think the size of this is fantastic. Not too thick, not too thin. The consistency of this is really nice. It does lean more on the creamy side than the waxy side, but this still took me a really long time to use up, even though this is just a deluxe sample size, but it did draw onto brow hair and onto skin really well. Honestly, I love this so much. I'm actually getting one for Christmas. I loved it so much to get it in the full size. So this is a fantastic, fantastic brow product, and I actually think this one is worth the money because I haven't been able to find anything that is the same shape as this and the same consistency. So I absolutely love this. So of the brow products, I would not repurchase the Maybelline Brow Pomade Crayon or the Pure Browder, but I definitely would repurchase and recommend the ColourPop Eyebrow Pencil and the Benefit Goof Proof. So guys, those are my current thoughts on all the products I did first impression videos on this year. Again, I want to thank the amazing Julie for this video idea. I definitely want to continue doing this because I think it's really important to give you guys my finalized thoughts once I've tried out the product for a while. So I'd love to know your thoughts if you've tried out any of these products. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.